Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about Darkwitch by, it's Kat's newest book. It's amazing. It's part 2 in her direwolf duology, and it continues the story after Leah and Henrik were able to unite the colony. The shunned wolves were kicked out of the colony. The village still exists. Luke Cage is still in charge of the village, and they're still very angry about the uniting of the colony, because it kind of encroaches on their plans to get rid of the wolves entirely. Henrik and Leah are still trying to navigate their feelings for each other. The biggest issue that they're having is Henrik is keeping secrets, and he won't tell Leah what he's doing. And she tries, she asks. She tries to follow him into the forest. She actually breaks curfew several times, goes into the forest, and eventually gets dragged back the last time by Nils. Drags her and Henrik back. She's having nightmares. It's like it was before, where she's seeing a vision, and in her vision there's an archer, and he shoots at Henrik, and she sees blood, and she assumes in her nightmare that Henrik dies. And so she says, she tells Henrik he's not allowed to go into the forest without her, and makes him promise not to go into the forest without her. But there are several occasions where she sees Nils bring him back, and Henrik's, in his room for several days recovering from something, and she doesn't know what it is, and he won't talk, and Nils won't talk, and it causes a rift. And at the same time, there's parts of people in the colony who don't want the unification. They're fighting against it. They're struggling. They're angry. They accuse the wolves of, anything and everything. And her mother happens to be a part of this. And her mother are on shaky ground. They're really not getting along very well. Her mother wants her to stay away from Henrik. She keeps trying to tell her that, well, how do you know that Henrik's not tricking you? How do you know he's not using his powers against you, Because Henrik is a Darkwitch. And she doesn't believe it. There's no way Henrik would do that to me. There's a point where Henrik comes back, and he's very weak, and he's in his wolf form, and she's trying to get him to communicate with her. And so when she asks him what it is that he wants, he shows her a picture of the hairbrush, and a picture in her mind of her brushing him. And so it makes it an easy way for them to communicate when he's in wolf form. And there's a, sorry, we got a cold going around here, so I'm drinking my tea. There's a point where he actually is able to take them back to the clearing where they first met in her mind, and talk to her. And again, she asks him, what's going on? And he can't tell her. He refuses. It's something to do with being a part of the pack. She's not a part of the pack. She hasn't sworn loyalty to the pack. She hasn't sworn loyalty to the humans because she's of both worlds, and she doesn't want to turn her back on either. But it makes it so she can't commit to either as well, which is very frustrating. At one point, Nils manages to get a cat. It was one of Salem's cats. Brings it back to Salem, kind of as an apology, kind of a way, for the beating that Salem took that Nils wasn't able to prevent. And they end up coming to like a shaky agreement, shaky friendship with each other. Maybe more if they have to learn, they have to build trust is the problem they're coming up with there. And then, so going back to the village, I misspoke when I said the village. The Luke Cage was in the village. They weren't. The humans weren't in the village anymore. The village had been abandoned. Leah was sneaking back to the village on occasion to get her to gather her father's weapons. Nils had to pass a ruling in the town, that in the colony, that you could only have weapons if you were trained. So you had to register them, and you had to be trained to use them. This upset the humans because the wolves had weapons. They had teeth and claws, and and the humans didn't. And so they felt it was unfair for the humans to have not be able to have weapons unless, you know, they were registered and trained, kind of thing. And Leah's mom was very outspoken about how this seemed unfair. But Nils was trying to... The problem that they were running into was that the colony members were attacking each other in the dark. A patrol would come back in, and a human would accidentally, you know, go after them because, oh, it's wolves, and it's the shunned, and it's not. It's their own fellow guard. They were stabbing each other, is basically what was happening. And Nils didn't want to go back to the way his mother had ran it. And, you know, his mother had taken all weapons away from the humans entirely. And so he was trying to find a balance, which he was struggling with. He was really struggling to find a balance. Gunnar came back. Gunnar came back after Sol died. Henrik and Leah were in the forest, and they came, they got attacked, and Sol, Leah shot and killed Sol, one of the humans from the village, and they took his supplies and his weapons because they thought that he had been, like, they were laying a trap for them, was going to kill them. So they took his supplies, his weapons, but they had to bury them before they got back to the colony because technically they weren't supposed to be out in the woods in the first place. They'd already gotten reprimanded for that. So they go back, and then the humans put together a kind of like a welcoming party to go set up trade routes with another nearby set of people. And so they leave. There was an attack before they left. There was an attack on the full moon when the wolves were out running around doing wolf things. There was an attack on the colony. The people had to fight. Leah was still very weak. Henrik was working on a concoction to help her and Gunnar. Gunnar had come back, and Nils had asked her to try and get close to him to try to figure out if he was there to spy on them, what it was that he really wanted. I mean, he came back beaten up and bruised, like his black eye, broken arm, like he was busted up. And he's claimed that his father had abandoned him because he couldn't keep up with the wolves, and they ditched him after beating him. And so he moves back in with Leah and her mom, and Leah tries really hard to, like, get to know him better. There's just, you know, he's her brother, so there has to be a connection. He saved her from falling off a cliff. Like, he must feel something. And she gets him to do a tattoo for her around her Minder blood mark on her wrist. And the tattoos that he chooses obviously shows that he's been paying attention to her when she talks, and he's been paying attention to her stories, and each little tattoo that he inks on her, you know, tells a part of her story. And so it's kind of heartwarming. Like, it makes her feel like that she's actually getting through to him, even though he doesn't tell her anything. There's a point where she gives him a blade, she gives him a knife, and when her and Henrik are attacked in the colony, they actually attempt to kidnap her and Henrik together. One of the men who attacks them has the knife and drops it. And so then, of course, it's like, well, they didn't get a good look at the men. Was it Gunnar? Was Gunnar there? Was he involved? How did they get the knife? Gunnar gets locked up again. He doesn't talk to anybody. Her mother demands to see him. And they finally do get in to see him. And Henrik, you know, is like, I'm your friend. I'm trying to help you. Like, why are you acting like this? And Gunnar's just, you don't understand. You don't understand how this feels. And then there's a point where Leah's out. They get attacked again. Unfortunately, the human party that went to meet and set up trade routes was attacked, ambushed, and killed. All of them were killed. The mayor was killed. That was a little bit surprising. Like, you find out first that the mayor's part of the underground, and then you find out, like, 2 chapters later, that he's dead. Like, you thought there could be some kind of resolution, like they could work on this together. No, he dies. So, and they sent a runner because it was slavers. There was a slave ship that was off the coast, and so they sent a runner to warn them, because slavers like to kidnap people. Wolves, they didn't really care as long as they could work. And by the time the runner got there, they were dead. So the shunned took care of them before the slavers ever got a hold of them. And there was another attack, and Leah was ambushed, and a wolf actually got a hold of her arm and basically snapped all the bones in her wrist. And she's fading in and out of consciousness, and Henrik is trying to save her. And Niels had made a rule that humans were not allowed to drink the wolf's blood. Wolf's blood had been found to be healing to humans. It could heal them, and Niels had made a decree that humans couldn't drink the wolf's blood. But to save Leah and to save her arm, Henrik was giving her his blood. And coming in and out of consciousness, Niels and Henrik are arguing, and Henrik's like, I didn't have a choice, I have to save her, I know I can't give her too much. And she's trying to figure out, piece together what it is that she's hearing, because it's really odd that, like, that's what they're worried about. Because she's not quite sure exactly what she's hearing. So she's like, okay, something's going on. Henrik is still keeping secrets from me. And she gets angry at him about it. Like, it hurts that he can't tell her stuff, even though she sort of understands that it's like a pack thing. And then she has to ask. She asks him, because of her seer abilities. She asks him if magic only passes through the alpha lines, and he says yes. Well, Gunnar doesn't have any abilities. Gunnar doesn't see visions. He doesn't have any of that. So she starts to think that, because her mother was sexually assaulted by two of the wolves, two of the shunned wolves, and so she asks if the other shunned wolf was of the alpha line. And so yeah, he is. And so she's starting to suspect that her and Gunnar have two different fathers, which is possible. It does happen. And Gunnar informs her that the one who she suspects might be her father tells her that his magic, which is basically like a controlling kind of magic, like he can make wolves listen to him, doesn't affect him. He tells him that it has no effect on me. Like, it doesn't. So they go to the village, and they start snooping through the village, and they find, because they're starting to put two and two together. Like, Henrik mentions that it's believed if a human has most of their blood drained and drinks a whole bunch of wolf's blood, that they can actually transform into a wolf. During her attack, when she was attacked, she saw the wolf who bit her arm. When he turned right before she passed out, it looked like Luke Cage, but Lucas Cage is not a wolf. He's a human. Or is he? So then she tells Henrik she thinks that the wolves and the shunned and the humans from the village have teamed up together to go to fight against the colony. And she thinks that they're building a wolf army and turning humans. And so they go to the village to find out. And that's where they find the village in disarray. The beds have straps on them, and the rooms are tore up. And that's when she realizes that that's probably what's happened. And then it's revealed that Gunnar has been paying for direwolf blood to turn himself. And that's why his knife ended up in that other person's hands, because he sold the knife for the money to buy the direwolf blood so that he could turn. And then it all comes to a head. They're running back through the woods, and they end up by the ocean. They're surrounded by these wolves that are chasing them. And at first she thinks maybe her vision was from Gunnar's point of view, and she was seeing things from Gunnar's eyes. And then she realizes that the wolves aren't chasing her. She called them. Like, she watches as the wolves start running towards the colony, and the colony is on fire, and people are getting attacked, and she calls to a wolf, and he stops. And she tells him to sit, and he sits. And she calls another wolf. But before all this happens, big reveal, surprise, surprise, her dad's alive. Her and Henrik are running through the forest, running from someone. That Archer, who she's dreamed of, is there, and shoots and saves her. It turns out it's her father. He had fallen over. Niels had saved him, had pulled him out of the ravine, and he was so injured that, he was going to die, that he was given direwolf blood. it caused him to turn. And the reason he didn't come back for 6 months is because for the first 6 months, the direwolves are crazy. I mean, like, insane, uncontrollable, crazy, right? So he's been crazy, and he didn't want to hurt her. And so he swore everybody to secret. He swore Henrik to secret, Niels to secrecy. Salem knew. He swore Salem to secrecy. And so now she feels betrayed by everybody. Eden is excited to have her husband back. They really honestly haven't gotten to be husband and wife hardly at all. They've been separated. Eden was not mentally there for a while. It's rough. So they get to be together again. He, introduces himself to Gunnar. It's kind of awkward because no one really knows what to do with themselves. Then the big attack happens. And that's when Leah figures out that she can control wolves, like her father. And she stops one wolf. She stops the second wolf. She stops the third wolf. And they come to her and they listen to her. And so she has to go save Henrik and Niels and Salem. They're all surrounded by the big bad wolf and his cronies. And Gunnar's there. Gunnar basically, like, pulled them into a trap. And then said he couldn't do it. He's like, I'm supposed to make a whistle sound, and like, but I can't do this to you. I'm so sorry. Yes, I was sent as a spy. I don't want to be a spy anymore. Like, completely admitted everything. And then he said he was sorry, and he made the call anyways. And he told her, that's when he revealed that power doesn't affect him. But then when he shows up, like, they caught him, and they bring him back, and was like, oh, he was a good little wolf, blah, blah, blah. Like, and the leader makes them all submissive. He pretends to be submissive too, and now she's wondering, well, did he lie to me, right? Well, bringing it all to a conclusion, she has a battle with her own father over her bad father, like her bio dad, over the control of the wolves, and he wants her to let them go. And she does, to save Henrik, to save Salem. And she says she lets them go, and he's like, why can't I control them? What's going on? And it kind of rolls into a whole fight, and he does end up being killed. They basically kill everybody that's not a newly turned wolf that didn't have a choice. It's basically determined that they were capturing, like, the guards had started going missing, and Niels and everyone had just assumed that they were defecting to the human faction or to the wolves. No, if they were human, they were being taken captive and forced to be turned into a wolf. Like, that's what they were doing to them. And so then it's kind of one of those things where now they have to come together, right? So the epilogue jumps years in the future, and her and Henrik are together, and things have worked out. Gunnar went back to the village. They actually opened back up the village, and so people could choose. They could just stay in the colony, they could stay in the village. Every year they do a wolfsbane raising. They basically go over to celebrate their unity of them all being together, and burn down all of the wolfsbane so that no wolf has a chance of dying from it. Gunnar met a nice village girl. He has a family. They have reconnected. Niels and Salem are happy. Her and Henrik are together. It's just such a nice way to see everything kind of the unity, the unification. It's beautiful. Like, it gave me nice warm fuzzies, right? I like books that end up with nice warm fuzzies. So if you're looking for a book that's got action and love and adventure and fighting and magic and nice warm fuzzies, Darkwitch, totally. Yep. Happy reading.